This is the story of how my town, Salem, has lost its motherfucking mind. So anyway, allow me to introduce you to my friend, the Mad Hat Cat. They are a very talented singer, actor, director. We performed together in a group called the Samurai of Spoken Word. I have
At least I think we do. That wasn't a dream, right?
No, that does happen. When we're allowed to actually like gather people in a room, I am totally going to be.
We're actually.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to say that I've already spilled beer on myself 15 seconds.
We're off and running then. This is going to be a great day.
Go ahead. So
I'm actually talking to the people. I'm going to talk to the people at Hertz Donuts about when we can actually get people into a room about possibly doing a late night show at a donut shop, because that place is open 24/7.
Hey,
I thought
that'd be kind of cool.
I'd be kind of good with that. Yeah. And also it'd be great because, you know, we've got enough 12-step people in our audience where I wouldn't feel terrible about going, hey, we're going to have a late night show and it's not at a bar. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I literally drink one time a week during our show, and you know, I think people probably see our show and think I'm drinking all the time.
Anybody who watched our show pretty much assumed that we're a group of alcoholics.
Yeah.
Currently, though, I am nursing a tonic because I have another doctor's appointment to go to. Yeah, I'm getting blood drawn again, and I'm also going to get felt up by a doctor, so that ought to be fairly entertaining. I'll just be walking in looking all kinds of like shiny and happy over that.
Is 1:06 p.m. John Standard Time?
Yes. We don't get to razz John very often, so when I do, I kind of roll with it, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I can hear you.
No, not gonna lie. I'm
me?
usually the late one, so I'm not hating having the lateness.
Well, here's the difference, though. It's something
Gabbing,
I've noticed.
not going at someone else other than me.
Yeah, well, I've noticed that there's a big difference, though. If I say, hey, we're going to meet up at a bar at about 1 o'clock, if you stumble in about 1:30, that's fair. If I say, we're doing a show at this time, Cat's walking through the door and ready to go. Which, you know, they're two different mindsets. I am not totally yelling at you yet.
Yet. I'm Dan Carlson, 1/3 of us three, four blokes. us three blokes.
We have a fourth bloke in this one, so yeah.
It's the mysterious long lost bloke. I'm gonna have my own spin-off series here called That Other Bloke.
Yeah,
it's going to be very short-lived, but you know, there's going to be a few like die-hard fans because it's just so campy.
The three of us.
I'm John Kadolf. I am one of the other thirds of us three blokes, and we're here today.
Yeah,
I'm in my new studio.
Hoorah!
And it's not complete, but at least I have a functioning green screen behind me that's actually doing a great job. It's the entire wall that is painted green.
Pretty
you mean you haven't been transported into a film noir?
Not yet. No,
but
by the end of it.
I should tint this whole thing black and white, except Dave is so strangely lit. I don't.
Anyway, I'm Dave Nesbitt, another third of us three blokes. And I dragged along my friend, the Mad Hat Cat, into this madness because when we were talking about this film and I mentioned it to them, they immediately went, "This sounds interesting." And I'm like, "Hi, welcome to the team."
Yep.
Glad to be here.
Yep.
So, Assassination Nation, contemporarily set. You know, we open on the child on his big wheel going down. I'm gonna have to go back and double check, but I'm pretty sure he is rolling down the actual street through the neighborhood. He's not on the sidewalk, and I'm like, what parent in 2018 is letting you do this?
Yeah, no shit.
And along the street, in front of all the houses, we see various residents of this place called Salem, and they all seem to be wearing some sort of masks, and not the masks we know in 2020 and 2021.
Oh yeah,
but like terrifying Halloween masks and there's a general tenseness about everything, and we get this VO from our protagonist Lily, 18-year-old, and she and her friends, she tells us, are about to be killed because the town has gone mad.
This is the story of how my town, Salem, has lost its motherfucking mind.
It's very Romeo and Juliet in that way, you know, like we're going to tell you exactly what is going to happen here, but then we're going to like go into more detail and you're going to be rooting for it not to happen.
Right.
Monsters are due on Maple Street levels of insanity there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it very much has that vibe there of, you know, questioning everyone around you, not being able to trust anyone, not even sure if you can trust your own self. There is a series of trigger warnings at the very beginning that is both a little tongue-in-cheek, but also, I think, like a serious point in the storytelling.
Yeah.
Like these are the things, and again, it's that Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. We're gonna lay the scene for you, and like you people strap in. And they also have a lot of little flashes of the graphic violence that is to come. I that's definitely, you know, there for titillation.
Although the violence in this film is really not stylized up and at least up at the very end.
What about the home invasion scene? Looks like something out of a Dario Argento movie.
No shit.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
The whole side cut away from the house and just like floor to floor to floor to floor.
That crane shot that just follows everyone room to room. It's very Tarantino-esque.
Oh my yes,
god.
Very.
But
there are a lot of like Tarantino-esque bit to this. Go ahead, Dave.
I was just thinking to myself that that's one of the key elements in the film is that as it starts off, it kind of starts off as your typical high school, things are getting weird sort of thing. And it kind of transcends realism at a certain point. After about the 1/3 mark, the film gets hyper real to the point of being surreal. The colors get so much sharper. Things get way more defined in terms of how the image of the film looks, that it really, it tells you that, you know, this entire situation is going off the rails in a way that can only go horribly wrong. And you get a lot of it through the actual use of color and the way that they frame out the subtext to it in the images.
It feels like to me, I don't know, I said this movie was like the modern day Fight Club, but it's almost actually like an answer to Fight Club.
I'd say it was the response to Fight Club. Yeah,
the response to Fight Club, and a much stronger movie. It's getting a lot of criticism. I think it's actually a much stronger movie than Fight Club, because Fight Club has that great first act that kind of gets you primed for it. But then, you know, as a criticism of the things it's portraying, it actually becomes something like it's been embraced by the people that it's criticizing in a lot of cases. This movie, that's not going to happen. This movie's very, you know, like it's a very crystal clear sort of installation of what it's trying to say. By the end, I was just like, there's no room, you know, like in a good way, there's no wiggle room to understand what they were going for. So.
Right. You know, I feel like this film is a lot more powerful than a lot of people would give it credit for, in that I think it somewhat realistically shows the struggles of being in an internet centric society, and for, you know, many different walks of life, and what you have to do. I think the scene where she's sitting with the principal and explaining her drawings to him, you know, and just what goes into it. And he even says it, you know, caught him off guard. But the pressures that people have, not just high school students, but adults have in today's internet society, to be and act and do and portray. I think that this film really kind of pulls the reality into perspective, because, you know, it's really not a lot of the things that for the first, you know, act, for the first third, that they're showing going on. I mean, that's, you know, like we see in Euphoria, for example. It's the same sort of lifestyle that's being portrayed for younger people, as well as adults, in their secret lives. And so I think this really throughout the story, throughout the movie, this has a really powerful message.
Yeah, there are a lot. I really did love how often and how sharply the writer slash director, I that's one element that I actually missed on my prep for this, was, are they the same person? But there are so many parallels between privacy, secrecy, and the public life. And one thing that I kind of noticed, the whole display of like the kids in the high school, like basically presumably between Snapchat, are communicating. It is this kind of paradoxical public covertness, because they're going to all these parties, they're having all this gossip, and technically speaking, that's on the DL, but like it spreads to everybody. Everybody eventually knows, and it happens fast. And I was not of the internet age really when I was in high school, but through looking at my sister's experience, at my younger sister's experiences in high school and then in college, that's exactly how it happens. Like it just goes. And I was kind of two minds about Lily's whole wise beyond her yearsness thing, that scene in the principal's office. I all at once was a little annoyed. I'm like, oh, another teenager who's like, no man, you're all faking. I've got to fucking figure it out.
The voice of the director.
All right, Holden Caulfield, I get it.
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, well, I mean, but she is right though, and there are plenty of kids who have that fucking feeling, especially in the age of social media, where there's a line, multiple lines in there in Lily's voiceovers especially, where she specifically says, like, we all pretend, but we know. And I don't know if we're allowed to reveal spoilers here, but
spoilers all the time, everywhere.
Yeah, all right. Over.
Two mystery reveals of secret identities for first hard eyes emoji daddy. Clearly from the very beginning, like, yeah, no, that's daddy. That's Nick right there. We fucking know. But then also the identity of the hacker. I saw that pretty early on.
Yeah.
I guessed it about the halfway mark. Yeah.
I didn't.
But yeah, I wasn't mad that I called it though, because again, that like, well, we know, but we kind of fucking pretend. And I was so mad at her parents throughout the entire movie for multiple reasons, but partially because like they are putting so much focus and energy and disciplining into Lily, and it's almost like they ignore the brother.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why he fucking did it. Like,
right.
He's bored and he's directionless and nobody engages with him about anything. But Lily knows she's smart and she has all these great ideas because she's, you know, she's got her finger on the pulse of society, and she's here to tell you the truth.
I think that you're right on that. And it really kind of hits home when they're sitting there for dinner and they're arguing on whether the principal's a pedophile or not. And she's, you know, arguing that, you know, he's not, you know.
I said I'm with her on that, by the way.
Yeah.
Exactly. I
Exactly.
realized that's what we're supposed to do, is we're supposed to empathize with the very cool principal.
Yeah.
Well,
but go ahead.
He really had it going on as far as, you know, the way he handled the whole situation with the drawings and all of that. You can see he's a good guy, you know. As far as the fact that they're sitting there and arguing about that, and it's this big deal, and then she walks off, and the little brother's like, did you see that video of the family that was devoured by those tigers? It was pretty cool.
That was actually the giveaway.
No reaction. You know, if my kid said that a family being devoured by a pack of lions, or whatever you want to call them, a pride of lions or tigers or bears, I don't know. Oh my.
Like, child, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But taking away your phone.
What do you mean? What do you mean that's cool?
I guess it depends on who the family. I guess it depends on who the family was.
Yeah,
to
but
me,
like,
though, is
no
that to me though
concern.
is a big tip off that he was the hacker in question, because
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean that was the moment I went there and went, if he's not a borderline psycho/sociopath, he's all the way over, because that's usually like a big sign right there
Yeah.
of the appreciation of that particular type of very real violence.
I feel like there's so much sociopathy going on in the movie that that's almost a footnote, or like
Yeah.
the punchline, because even the nice boyfriend, when he is challenged in the movie, becomes, you know, like he starts to veer toward the sort of raging masculinity that's through this whole movie. And
I think that's an element, though, is that one of the things they definitely go into here is the fragility of the male ego. And
It's
when
in
it
the
gets,
trigger warnings.
yeah, and when it gets damaged, you know, bad things happen. And I won't claim to say that I have always been, you know, the perfect upstanding person. I can totally see it from both perspectives. You have to gain a certain amount of emotional maturity to get past that point when your ego gets damaged, to not just turn around and immediately reflexively act in the most horrible way. And I think it was, as much, again, there were people who were sitting around going, well, that's it's all a bit overblown and this and that. I'm like, motherfucker, how long has it been since you were a adolescent? Because I can remember feeling crushing destruction in my mind and wanting to destroy everything.
I felt
in
like
my
this
way.
movie held back quite a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if anything, it was relaxed.
Yeah, I thought so too. But
The
I have so many
part of
blasts going through my mind of
That's what I was worried about.
yeah,
with this movie.
this is a really, I'm not saying that it's a dumb film. What I'm saying is that it's a very dense film, in that there is a lot going on,
Yeah.
both in terms of the plot lines, but also the way that the plot lines intersect and create a subtext.
That's what
Because the next part of the thing that breaks the entire town open is everybody's getting their stuff hacked. People are having elements of their lives examined in a way that nobody could be able to. Nobody's life stands up to that level of examination. You're gonna say something stupid. You're going to do something
absolutely.
dumb.
That's
and now everybody and their mother is sitting there watching you in your worst moments and just focusing on that.
But you see the difference between the way that somebody who hasn't examined their own life deals with that,
Yeah.
and someone who
Good
maybe
point.
maybe is a little more thoughtful, like the principal who tried, you know, he stood up and he said, "Look, this isn't right." You know,
The mayor, on the other hand, is a case of cognitive dissonance of the worst sort.
well, you know, that's the moment when I realized that I was going to like the movie, because the first half hour or so I thought, this is well written, but it's not for me. But then once that happened and I realized the movie had bigger targets, you know, like bigger.
We're gonna move up.
Yeah, we're saying something much larger than this. Isn't just Heathers too, which I love Heathers, and but
Yeah.
it started out kind of like Heather. I'm like, okay, I can get into this, but it's you know, but after that, it's like, oh, this isn't Heathers. This is you know, this is something much bigger. So yeah,
I was kind of surprised to say, I'm like, what local news station would be actually displaying leaked lewds as
Oh,
part of like
yeah.
their B-roll that's going on while they're like, you can tell that story. Do you actually display where like he's in a thong and you can see like full buttock?
yeah. That
What?
obviously was
This
a
is a weird
screenwriter's
town.
invention.
Yeah.
It leads me to another one. The kind of just blasé feeling that most of the kids at East Salem High have about the mayor stuff getting leaked. Like, yeah, they're all kind of enjoying it in a Schadenfreude-y kind of way, but at the same time, like, I mean, meh, who hasn't got hacked, man? And they get into I can't remember what the character's name is. She's the cheerleader who
Bella
suffers some
Bella
head
Thorne's
trauma a little
character.
later on.
Yeah.
And she said, look, guys, privacy is dead. And there are two kinds of people in this world. There are people who get that. And then there are the old people who are still trying to fight against it. And
The irritating part
like,
is it's the one thing she says that's right.
yeah, no, God, all the Instagram influences stuff, like, I know it was written to be cringy, but I was like, no.
Yeah, the level of cringe is high, but very real, very
Yes.
accurate.
But unlike other movies which play up the cringe thing, It also has very well-defined characters, and you know, like you can empathize with everybody. You even empathize with the people who are losing their minds a little bit, which is odd for a satire. Usually there's sort of a disconnect there. You're kind of like laughing at everybody, but here I was horrified the whole damn time. I was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing for a good, the last half of the movie. I was just like, that's why I didn't know how to review this, because I mean, I love the movie. It's actually one of the best I've ever seen, but I have no idea how to encapsulate it all. And I was actually happy when Kat said she would summarize it, because I don't know of the way into this movie.
Yeah, basically, to finish up the summary, once everybody's information gets out, somebody accuses Lily of being the person who released all this information
under duress.
Under duress, because that person was being tortured
He
left,
just
right,
had to
sideways.
fucking think of someone, and who better than the person who currently has the big red letter A, metaphorical letter A on her. Like, well, she's in recent memory. This person, you're already slut shaming the shit out of her.
Right. And he was
why not attack her for this as well?
And he was being waterboarded. So
yeah.
I mean, it's hard to like come down too hard on him, but yeah, you can see.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't even coming down hard.
No, I didn't think you were.
His thought process on that, like,
yeah. Oh, that's the first thing I would have done.
Garbled. It was a garbled thought process.
Right. Yeah. Who knows what's going to come out
with water being poured down into your lungs? It's not great.
After about the second or third time, I'll just own up right now. I'll give up all of you.
You have all those pictures of me, Dave. So
yeah,
I'm assuming that they're going to make it onto some subreddit somewhere eventually.
I just have one word for you, John. Bigfoot.
Oh Lord.
Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I can imagine that just popped up on the screen for all of you to see as well. But Dan, you made a point earlier that all of those people, for example, at the meeting where the mayor gets up there, he knows he's not going to be able to say a word, and he's already prepared to do what he's going to do. But all those people, shouting resign. You had said, people that don't examine their lives. I almost think that at this point, most of those people probably were examining their lives and realizing, what if this was me, and I can't let anyone think that I feel like this is okay, because because they're all out there screaming for him to resign. Everyone has done something.
Well, but that's not examining. That's sort of projection. That's when you kind of sort of know that you're making sure that it's paid for outside of yourself.
Yeah. Projection would be a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on Dan on that one. Halfway through the movie, it might have been like 3/4 of the way through. There were a number of incidents, increasing acts of abuse and verbal and physical violence. And I that I'm like having strong feelings about things when suddenly I have abs because my stomach is so tight.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that during this movie.
There was.
But the takeaway that, like, in my kind of shifting around rage on the couch, I was like, all right, well, here's my takeaway at this fucking moment. You all obsess and focus on and are shamefully can't live without young girls, including young trans girls, and then you because you're so unwilling to be self-aware, to examine your own self and be okay with that you would just explode in a shower of lashing out at other people, to the point of even physically harming them.
Yeah.
Like, the lack of self-awareness and the willingness to look within, I think, was a big thing that with all these hard pink and yellow and blue and white lighting, that's one of the things that's being looked at really hard, I think, is we are all at once sharing so much information, and if we think it's within a context that, you know, that we're safe and we're not judged, we're very free with it, and then but people react to it differently. Lily didn't resort to violence when she got hacked, when everyone and that includes violence against herself.
Yeah.
Like the mayor enacted violence upon himself because it was just, the shame was too much and he couldn't handle it, that everyone was judging him so harshly.
That's why I think it's great that the teacher scene is in there, because there's a contrast automatically when you see it. So you can see, even though he's got to deal with so much suffering, that he gets to actually at least handle it with dignity, you know.
Well, and then during that speech, they cut away to a masked figure smashing in the glass door of his house. Presumably he's not there right then, and you hear his wife and his daughter scream. Like, you're attacking anything adjacent now. You're not attacking the supposed focus of your rage. It just is expanding ever outward until no one is fucking safe.
Right. And you know what causes this? Because we saw this all happen this year. You know,
as Dave told me before he told me to watch this, it's
thanks,
eerily
Dave.
prophetic in a way.
We go from Uncle Peckerhead to this.
This film had the misfortune of being basically 2 years ahead of its time.
Right, exactly.
Because everybody after a while, especially when you hit about the 2/3 to 3/4 mark of this film, decides that it's safer to fall into the anonymity of being part of the mob that's attacking something. So that way, if I'm a member of the mob, then I'm not standing out in such a way that anybody's examining me and the things that have been said about me and the information that's been released. So if I sit here and hide in the mob and just follow along, I'm going to be fine. And also, you have all of that built up anger based on your life is being disrupted by all this stuff. Your kids have had their information shared, your information's been shared, and you're going to vent it on somebody. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't make any fucking sense.
And where does this mentality come from? I mean, like you said, 2 years ahead of its time. You know, we're seeing this stuff happening in a fictional movie, and now, and you know, now here in 2020, we're witnessing this colossal mass insanity, these mob mentalities where they're just lashing out at anything and everything they possibly can.
I think we're in a unique period of time because, I'm sorry, Dan, just a quick moment, but I think we're in a unique period of time because at this moment, what we've had is a period of social isolation for a lot of people where you can't have somebody to moderate out. Hey, I've heard this interesting theory about, you know, I'm going to throw it at QAnon because I've been shitting all over those guys for years. But the QAnon theory really gained up a lot of violent speed over the last year or so. Basically, people have been socially isolated, and the things that would usually moderate the more extreme elements of what you think or what you think you're learning, the people who would say, "Are you sure, dude? Look a little deeper," are not a part of your life right now. And now everybody's been sitting in their own little chambers, making up, you know, hearing all of these theories and deciding, look, the world is just crazy enough for it to be true. And I think that's a significant part of why this year everything went so completely off the rails.
For the last 4 years, it's very much been kind of a sense of, well, this is real, and yet this entire section of the population is saying, well, no, that's actually not real. This is real instead. I'm like,
yeah. All right, let's do the
and at a certain point, your personal certainty and the certainty of the people around you, even if you hold on to that, it doesn't take away the feeling of dissonance within the group at large. And if people don't understand reality, then how can we operate?
Oh my God!
Oh God, we had good
some
stuff
of our best stuff, and I didn't. I blame this. I'm sorry. I blame it.
We need to get you to drink more often,
or less.
You need to buy Dan some water.
Yeah.
Yeah. I apologize. There were some great thoughts there. And I don't
Boy,
know
what
if
did
we'll-
we even talk about?
You guys were talking about the camera pulling away during those moments of
Isolation.
sudden and immediate isolation
Mhm.
happening for a lot of different characters. And then Dave brought up another a kind of a different cinematographic, a different visual
Works for
way
me.
of presenting that same very sudden and immediate isolation, where they're at the party and you have the three Snapchat screens up and going on. But then after Bex has had sex with Diamond, the hot football player with his like perfect package and a pair of gray sweatpants, as she put it earlier.
Tom Cruise is a
That line
Is that what
that
she said?
you talked about being thoughtfully written. I'm like, that line is actually what I thought of. I'm like, it was so real.
Yes.
It was so real, and I loved that the screenwriter or screenwriters did not hold back. They're like, nope, we're going all in with the teenage girl
But I
talk.
think that was something they were actually talking to Sam Levinson, and he said once the script was handed out to the actors, especially to the four keys in the film, he
Mhm.
said, "Look, don't be married to the words that I have here. If you feel that this sentence can be expressed better using a different set of words, do it." And so, as a result,
maybe
the dialogue feels way more organic to
Maybe-
everybody who's in it.
Maybe the teens should be credited as writers then, because there's a lot of dialogue that comes from them that I don't feel could come from a man.
That was actually one of the things that really impressed me about the film, is that it felt, as a guy, like I was having the opportunity to take a look inside of the way that the communication happens amongst women on a level that you don't normally get. And
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. But that was just something that kind of floored me. I was really impressed with it.
There is one particular scene where I think that what you just talked about really, really heckin' shines in this.
Mhm.
And it also kind of fortunately flows back into our wanting to go forward with the synopsis. After Lily has been hacked, and well, actually it's before Lily gets hacked. I think it's when Nick/Daddy gets hacked, and then people figure out from the photos, even though her face isn't in the frame, but from a combination of like narrowing down who wears this piece of jewelry on the daily and a birthmark on her back, although it would honestly look more like a freckle. Like,
Yeah.
Lily and Bex are having this little under the covers confessional moment, and there's that hard pink light again, and they're kind of whispering to each other. Presumably they are alone in whoever's bedroom they are in, but just this small quiet moment, and Bex is like being real with her and saying like, dude, what are you doing? First of all, he's like 40 and you're 18, and he's married and he has a kid. How did this happen? And then I can't remember if she says it here, but Lily says a few times throughout the movie, as do a couple of other people, I'm not a bad person. And that keeps coming back up and up again. This cognitive dissonance with people's self-image and what's being projected back to them by how everyone else is viewing them. But yeah, getting back to the confessional moment, that moment between them, very, very realistic and so wonderfully done. I love the way that it was shot. I love how the actors delivered that section of dialogue. It was perfect.
It actually reminded me. It reminded me of that scene, Starfish. Yeah, there was a moment there of genuine. I love when they give somebody that kind of space of the sort of intimacy that you have in childhood, where nothing is off the table. And when you have two people having that conversation under the covers, it totally has that moment and that feel to it.
I love that scene so much, and the scene in Starfish so much, that I probably will have to ham-handedly work some sort of scene like that into any screenplay that I do.
Oh, hell yeah.
and and we see a lot of that kind of scenery in Euphoria. I don't know if you guys have watched.
I've never watched it, but it's
Sam Levinson is actually the writer and producer of that
Right.
show. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, that that show moves me into places that I don't think I've ever been before, as far as feelings and emotions from a show. But again, it's extremely thoughtfully written. Just like, for example, the scene that I'm thinking of in this movie is where they're in the locker room and they discover that Lily and Diamond had sex.
Bex and Diamond, but yeah,
Bex and Diamond, yeah.
Pardon?
we knew what you went.
Oh, yeah. Who did I say?
It was Bex and
Oh,
Diamond.
no, I
not
said Lily. I meant Bex. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you. And the line he says is, I can't, or something like, I can't believe Diamond,
Sucked Bex's dick.
sucked her dick.
Yeah.
And in almost any other kind of writing, the pronouns would have been incorrect.
Yeah.
And
See, I love that you bring that up. I'm going to let you finish your thought, and then I've got something to tack on there.
Okay. But yeah, it's ahead of its time as far as world happenings right now, and it mirroring a lot of that, but it's ahead of its time as far as the time we all look forward to, where the proper use of pronouns is natural. Go ahead.
Yes.
Well, I watched the movie with my partner here at home, and he brought up that he felt like that would never ever happen. A group of boys who were, in such a state and would go to such extremes to shame Diamond for his choice of sexual partners, call him a fag, and then go and try to lynch a trans girl, would never respect someone's pronouns.
Yeah.
And it was like,
It's a good point,
I'm
though.
gonna push back on that a little bit, because Bex is fully integrated into this high school experience. She isn't a loner. She's not on the fringe of society or anything. And in a way, I like, this happens all the time, but most people who don't know a trans person can't really imagine someone existing like that. Like, we're just, it barely comes up in everyday life. Like, it's clearly mentioned for reasons to, kind of make a little bit of a contemporary commentary, I think. But she's been socialized as a girl. Everyone sees her that way. That's the vibe she's putting out. And it would take a lot of effort to, like, having known that person for presumably 4 years, or 6 years if they were like junior high plus high school.
Yeah.
It would take an extreme amount of effort when everyone else is like, yeah, that's Bex. She's friends with Lily and Sarah, and I forget the other two's name, unfortunately. And I immediately thought of this one interview that Ben Shapiro did with, I don't even remember who the fuck it was. He was talking about Blair White, conservative trans YouTuber. She very much is, putting out the classic archetypal feminine vibe. And he makes a big deal all the time about, well, no, one of the first rules that when I was working at Breitbart News, when we were talking about a trans person, we would say their name and then we would use their biological pronouns. And he slipped in the conversation where he was talking about Blair. He referred to her as she, and then went, I mean he. Like, you have to put effort into it, because it's so I actually did not think that was entirely unrealistic, especially because, like, this is clearly happening right now. kids who are in this situation right now, with just looking at what technology they're using and everything, I don't think it's entirely unrealistic, but of course the transphobia is still there,
Yeah.
and it's causing him to lose his head, and he's dragging everybody else into it too. He drags Diamond into it.
You have a lot of really awesome deep thoughts on this. My question for you is, with the almost schizophrenic kind of nature of, like you were saying, the use of derogatories against Diamond, and then proper use of pronouns. But do you recall at any point in the movie where language was used towards Bex that was derogatory for being trans? I don't.
Nobody ever, to my recollection, intentionally misgenders her. I am almost certain that, I mean, I would call attempted lynching derogatory to some degree.
As I say, the entire last reel of the movie is pretty overt.
Like, he even, I don't even remember the stupid kid's name. The head athlete, the alpha male, leading the shirtless boy rampage. Which, like, I get how you guys got there. That's a conversation for another day about how society made you the way you are.
With the pickup
we
truck
started
with the
it
big
because we were
flags.
talking about the brother and how, like, nobody is giving him any kind of path to be. There are all kinds of focused and specific demands and expectations, and Lily even brings them up. Be a slut, be a good girl, cross your legs, spread your pussy. But then at the same time, the boys are just directionless, and this aimless rage. Like, I don't know if the director was specifically wanting to comment on that, but that is something that I was picking up a lot of. Yeah.
I almost think that is almost an accurate representation of what I remember seeing, in high school and beyond. And like you said, the whole thing about women being told how they need to be accepted, and then you cross that with the opening, one of the opening lines where they're saying that that people don't want the whole person. People want that snapshot, that we want that girl in that picture with that smile and that intention, and they don't want the whole package. And as far as the mayor, man, that whole thing, that is so complicated, because yes, he dressed up in women's clothing and had this whole other life that he was secretive of, and in those pictures he doesn't look ashamed of it, but he doesn't know how to face the public who had a different view of him, so he kills himself. But the whole idea of kink shaming someone to killing themselves, there are other layers to it. He was cheating on his wife and all of that kind of stuff. But, back up a little bit and look at situations that are a little bit more contemporary, with poly lifestyle and things of that nature, where maybe the wife had no problem with him doing it, but understood that he had to keep that quiet because of his political life.
Yeah.
And then also, you gotta hate him because he was, not because of what he was doing, but because of how he was such a goddamn hypocrite. How can anybody, I don't understand how anybody can engage upon a lifestyle and then turn around and and persecute that lifestyle. I just
How does it work? Why would you want to call any attention to it?
Well,
you know,
in
it's
the
like
first place,
I think
just
it's
be silent on the matter.
It's like a self-hatred kind of thing.
There's
you know, like in for example, the new the TV show of The Mist. There's a an actor, and I believe they're pan, and I don't know if they specify really any pronouns or anything, so I'll just say they. But there's a football player that beats the crap out of them, and yet wants to make out with them, and then comes to a realization like, what have I been doing this whole time? Why am I doing this?
There's a great book by Debbie Ford, which is sort of based in Jungian theory of the shadow, where you're projecting out. It works both ways. You can actually be projecting good qualities of yourself that you can't accept onto other people, and that makes you kind of glom onto people. And you can also project bad things you judge as bad. Maybe they aren't even bad, but you project them onto other people, and so that allows you to not look at yourself. And I think that's where that comes from to a certain degree. You're not doing any sort of internal work, and everyone else has to pay the price for you not doing that work. And I think that's kind of what's going on in this movie, and in that's what you're outlining there. At least that's.
Well, I would agree with you to the point up till when somebody is doing it intentionally. I think that projection can be used as a scapegoat for people who are doing it intentionally. And
well, it's not a scapegoat. I think it's actually terrible that you aren't doing the work. I think it's your responsibility to do the work.
But do you think that mayor would have, even if he was doing the work, would have revealed?
Well, I think he had crafted a personality externally that was an exact opposite of what he was living in his life, and that's the issue. If he had, if he had done the internal work, he probably wouldn't have crafted that external personality. He probably wouldn't have craved that power. He probably wouldn't have lived his life, like externally so differently from how he was behaving.
Well, I do wonder. I mean, he's not the first politician to have, a homoerotic or kinky lifestyle, in the background. If that image of a person, that he was projecting was so contrary to who he was as a person, the way he was living his life when there weren't any cameras around, when the prying eyes of the public weren't around, I wonder what draws someone into such a position that's in the public eye so much.
I think, and I'm not a psychiatrist. I think he's judging himself in a way. If he could accept himself as he is, he probably wouldn't do that.
Or maybe it's possible that somebody who does that is trying to distance themselves as far as they can from their intimate life, and again, and project a different view of them, so that no one could ever possibly think that they were living this other life. Maybe that's the draw, possibly, to that.
I'm so opposite of who I actually am out here that no one will ever think that I'm like that.
I think there are a lot of really great moments in this movie where there is that juxtaposition between the private life and the public life, and how cohesive those two are, and how in alignment they are with each other. And at what point, are there enough external pressures or even internal pressures to where they start to shift away? Because at the very least, I would say, for the most part, the four main gals in the group, Lily Beck's, and the other two whose name I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Don't worry, I can't remember him either.
I want to say Sarah and Abby.
M is one of them.
I blame it on the fact that there's so much information coming at you through the entire movie.
That may be part of it. Well, no, there's one scene where they're sitting on the floor, or they're like laying down on the gym floor, and there is a distinctive open space in their little circle. And Beck says something like, "If you can hear us, Carrie, we miss you." And I'm like, "Wait,
oh my God, I got
was
you.
Yes.
Was Carrie the one that just walked away
No,
with the
Carrie
ponytail?
Fisher. That was Carrie
oh,
Fisher.
That's who she was talking
She's
about?
referencing a person who's not in the movie because, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I say there are a lot of little. I want to go back and rewatch this to catch a few things. That was one of the moments. There that also brings.
And it's interesting because
Carrie Fisher, that thought ran away. I don't know where that was going.
It's interesting that Carrie Fisher was someone who never ran away from her darker, the darker image that people had of her. Like, yeah, she had struggled with addiction, and she was very honest about it.
Yeah, what about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, they miss her because she's sort of, like the symbol of someone who just lived honestly.
Yeah.
And it's not like we all necessarily owe people,
No.
every nitty-gritty detail about our lives. I mean, in a way, yes, privacy is dead, but also it's not dead, because what was that conversation under the covers? It was two people speaking face to face, and I'm sure their phones were just outside or maybe down in their pockets, but they were talking to each other without any kind of filters. And, they may have been saying things that, other people would gasp and judge them for, but in that moment, there's no filter with it. And they're just two people having a conversation, and it doesn't, because of what it is, by its very nature, it's not going to be something that can be judged externally by a massive amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that kind of makes me think, where do people, including myself and everybody, get off thinking that it's up to them to judge anybody? And I do it, and whether I do it out loud or I see something and I think, oh, that's a terrible person, it's like, man, something's got to break. And I think we're in the midst of it here, in real life at this point, where, people are starting to, realize that there are some really dark things in society, and those dark things are not the people who secretly dress up in women's clothing or have kinks or are trans or are gay. Those aren't the dark things in society. It's the ones that are constantly calling attention to every little thing and making it seem like it's dark. And, I think we're going to hit a reversal coming up, hopefully very soon, where people just realize people are people are people are people, and, let them get on with their lives.
Okay, so this is definitely an official press play. I would love to take this opportunity to thank Erica Van Kampen for sitting me down on Christmas freaking Eve in 2019 to watch this movie. It's a film that left me absolutely gobsmacked in a lot of the best sort of ways. It's not just shock value for the sake of shock value. You walk away from this film, like everybody I know who got it walked away from this film going, I got to do some serious heckin' absorbing here. And I'm like, yeah, feel ya, got it. Because it tells you an awful lot about both the worst and the best of us. And the worst is definitely the key element that we see in here. But I think also there's some of the best in them, especially in that scene with Bex and Lily talking under the covers and just relating to each other on a very basic, without any degree of inhibition level. And that was something that absolutely moved me in this film.
just going to say press play. Best movie I've seen in years. Wish it had come out this year so I could proclaim it the best movie of the year, but I can't because it came out 3 years ago. But great. I can't praise it enough. And yes, it's sleazy approved, even though it's kind of aims higher than the sleaze, but it does have all the sleaze if you're looking for that. There's a lot of it. And I love that last scene during the end credits where the marching band is going to that Miley Cyrus song.
Yes!
Where we have to keep the song is, I think we have to keep going or something. I don't know what it's called.
I love that you know what song the marching band was playing. And
I have no idea either.
also, random thought on that. Where the fuck did this banging marching band come from? Are they from West Salem High? Because this whole movie has been white as fuck.
Did that feel like a scene from a Spike Lee movie that it kind of just walked into this movie?
Like a little bit. Yeah. I was totally here for it. It was really cool. I was just kind of like, wait, where have you guys been this whole time?
So press play. 2 minutes left. So Kat, press play, press eject.
Definitely press play. I have additional thoughts that may or may not get recorded later. But if nothing else, incredibly enjoyable watch, beautiful to look at. I want to rewatch it just to comment on all of the lighting that was done. And whether or not you think it actually says something, if nothing else, as this is clearly shown, there is so much to talk about because it has so many conversation starters. And I think that in and of itself has value. So definitely press play.
John?
Absolutely press play. Again, there's like Kat said, there's so much to say. There's so many conversation starters. I think it's all important. It's funny, we didn't even cover what happens in the last act of the movie. But maybe, I don't know if Kat, if you have time, if we want to kind of just go over that little bit of the last part of the movie synopsis. Absolutely press play. One of the best written films that I've seen in a long time.